Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. If you're new here, my name is Christina. If you're not new here, hi, welcome back. It's great to see you. This is a pick a card reading for the time frame ahead. For these pick a card readings, I pick an overall theme using the cards, and then I'll go into the individual groups. So for the overall theme, we have 3 cards. The first one is the womb. I'm actually going to show all of them at once just because they go so well together. So the womb, the threshold, and the village. So there's all of this energy here of being in this sort of like nesting kind of energy here with the village and the threshold, and then with the womb. So the womb was the first card that came out. So it was coming through with like an energy of your origin story or the beginning of something. And so I feel like you're at the beginning of perhaps a new cycle, or like there's something that you're creating perhaps, or it's like you're currently perhaps in this energy of this sort of nesting in preparation for something that you're going forward with, right? With the threshold and the village. The village talks to me about a place where it is very comfortable, sort of like a nest, but eventually it is a place that we have to move forward from, like to go out of our comfort zone, to grow, to expand, to see what else is out there, right? So there's that kind of energy here with the village, and with the threshold, of course, that talks about like stepping over some sort of threshold that once you step over it, there's no going back, right? That's the kind of energy that it's coming through with. I am getting this sort of like almost like jittery kind of, and it's not quite restlessness, but it's like you're prepared for whatever this change is kind of how it's feeling to me. So that's the overall theme. I will go into the individual groups and I'll hold up the cards. The timestamps are in the description box below. All right, for group 1, we have the unseen. For group 2, we have the poet. And for group 3, we have the self. So I will hold up all 3 cards so you can compare, and you'll find the timestamps in the description box below. Hi group 1, welcome to your reading. So we're going to start off with the archetype cards. So you had these 2 cards to come out together, the unseen and the mentor. So group 1, you have some sort of unseen mentor energy that's helping you achieve your goals, is kind of how it's coming through. So this could be like a new guide, especially because it's coming through with the unseen. It could be like a spirit guide. It could be like an ancestor or like a loved one who's passed, who's helping you on this next part of your journey. So I don't know, so at the bottom of this deck you have September and staff. There's a lot of like masculine energy present here with the Emperor. So this could be like a father figure who's passed, or something to do with like this energy feels like what whoever this mentor is in this sort of spiritual realm is coming through as being like the Emperor. Somebody who you look to for strength is kind of how this is coming through, whether or not, because you also have the vessel here at the bottom of the deck, which is telling me that this might actually be somebody in the physical, but it's like you have a spiritual connection to them. It's kind of how it's coming through. So it feels like there's somebody in the physical with a vessel card, or that you're somehow channeling or accessing or being guided spiritually by somebody through your actions or through your body or whatever. That's kind of how it's coming through here. So there's, regardless of whether or not this is an embodied person or just like a spiritual guide, it's like through this connection spiritually, through the unseen, you're being guided is kind of how it's feeling to me. So again, at the bottom of the deck, we have this, the Emperor card, and then the Two of Wands, and underneath that, the Ace of Pentacles, and the Four of Wands. So if you watched the last reading that I did, the Gemini Rising, I'll link it above just in case that might resonate with you. The Ace of Pentacles was the one card the one ace that was missing. So it could have to do with that, but it doesn't necessarily have to. What I'm just getting from this combination of cards is that there was some aspect that you were missing, or that you couldn't see, or something like that. There was something missing in perhaps like your manifestation, or like that you were moving towards. And I feel like it's like you're being guided towards that with this Emperor energy. There's some sort of mentoring energy, perhaps in spirit, who is almost like lighting up the path for you with this Two of Wands, right? Showing you exactly where to go. Almost like a runway, right? It's like you're moving exactly towards what it is that you've been looking for or waiting for. So that's the overall context here. We have here Target and the Throne, which says a goal-oriented person and a position of authority. So I feel like this mentor energy is helping you to achieve your goals, perhaps to reach some sort of position of authority in your own life. So whatever that is for you, whatever your goals are that you're working towards, this energy is helping you to reach them. And then we have here the Six of Cups, which is so similar to this Emperor energy, right? So this, I always see this sort of like root structure as being like an unseen energy, right? But because it's underground, I feel like it's talking about that this spiritual connection, whatever it is, has very solid foundations within your physical realm, because the vessel is here too, right? So it could be something like, so if it is something like an ancestor, or like a past loved one, it's like their influence is very much present in your physical realm. It's just that maybe you're not seeing it, or that it's going to be revealed to you soon, is kind of how I'm seeing this. Also, because it's the Six of Cups, that to me just talks about a soulmate in general. So whoever this person is or was to you, like they are soulmate. I feel like what it is that they're helping you to do, because you have the World card coming out next. So completing a major cycle. I feel like this is also talking about like receiving what it is that you need, is kind of how it's coming through. Some sort of, so it has to do with a position of authority. It could be just like reclaiming your power is kind of how I'm seeing this combination. And with the next cards coming out next, so you have here the Valley, which says deep personal strength and peace that assures success, and the Nine of Wands. I can't remember which reading this was, but there was another reading that had this exact combination of cards coming out like right on top of each other, which is talking about like building your staircase out of perhaps a difficult period of your life, or like through your own personal strength and peace. So this mentor energy could be helping you to do that, right? Like to help you build, or to help you elevate to some sort of position of authority, perhaps. There's this interesting energy too that came out with the mentor, which talks about like, so obviously the teacher archetype, which talks about like the mentor knows perhaps like the whole story, let's call it, especially with the World, right? It's like they know the subject that you're studying, for instance, inside and out, is kind of how it's coming through. But they only reveal part of the information that you need, so that you're not overwhelmed by the flow, right? So there's something here about like that it's kind of like you're learning step by step is what's coming through here with the World. But I feel like it feels like you're at the end of this journey is kind of how it's coming through here. you're at the end of this journey where perhaps there was a mentor who was helping you in a particular cycle of your life. So it's kind of like maybe there's one cycle where there's one mentor kind of energy that's closing out, and then you're going to be entering into a new one. So there could be something like that. What's really interesting here, though, is that you have this combination of cards. So the chain, which says chain of events that affect your life. And then the Son of Wands and the Ten of Wands, which is really interesting. This Son of Wands I see as being sort of like a false light, right? So somebody who, I don't know, comes off as being more charming or attractive or whatever than they actually are. It's like they don't actually have that skill or whatever it is. It's like it's something like, so it could have been deception. I feel like with this chain, though, it's talking about, so whenever I see the chain, it talks to me about breaking the chains, right? Like breaking free of patterns and stuff like that. I feel like there's also stuff here about like circumstances outside of your control that are somehow related to this Ten of Wands, the Son of Wands. I feel like this energy is being exposed in some way, or there's like something here about like you're going to be seeing the truth about it. It's just like this hasn't happened yet is kind of how it's coming through. Like there's a certain chain of events that has to play out pertaining to this Son of Wands energy, where it's like, it could also be something like with this Ten of Wands, right? Because now you're in the process, I feel like you're in the process here of this Nine of Wands, where it's like you're actively building. It's kind of like this one was perhaps trying to prevent you from that, is kind of how it's coming through. I don't want to necessarily say that it was like they were against you or working against you. It just feels like there was this could also be this sort of like nest energy, right? Because of the Ten of Wands that's coming out. There was somebody in your environment, or there is still, I don't know, where it's like they just prevented you from, it's kind of like they're coming through as like, somebody who is hindering your growth in some way, whatever way that is. I feel like that's part of what's changing here, is that like learning how to recognize individuals who don't want you to grow, or who are preventing you from growing, or have sort of like they place extra burden on you instead of helping you to grow and to build. Their energy just feels like more burden, is kind of how that's coming through. It could be somebody who was close to you as well, because the next card here you have is the Wolf, which normally is a pack animal, right? Who travels in packs. Very much family oriented, but this card to me always looks like a wolf that's leaving a pack, right? The lone wolf. Especially because it's coming through with all this like fiery energy, like leaving a place where you're comfortable, leaving, it doesn't have to be family, but just like perhaps people that you are comfortable with, and leaving that behind in order to step into something new. I feel like there is a chain of events, though. I don't know. I feel like it is, but it could also be like breaking generational patterns. That's what I see with the chain as well. So it's not necessarily that this one was hindering your progress, but it could just be that they were acting in a way that perpetuated generational trauma or generational patterns or something like that. And so in order for you to move forward, you've got to kind of do things your own way, because this is coming through with sort of like root chakra energy, which is family and belonging and like your roots, right? This feels like something to do with like your roots, your foundation, which I feel like is changing. And I feel like you're being guided out of the situation because it's like you're meant to be moving on to something new. You're meant to be crossing some sort of threshold. Okay. Group 1. The interesting part here next, you have the bird perched, which says waiting for news package or letter. This card also came out in that Gemini Rising video, so I would suggest watching that if this reading is resonating for you. And the lamb. So I feel like, because this card coming out next is talking to me about like receiving something. I feel like you are receiving something. So as much as you are sort of like building and like growing, at the same time it's kind of like things are being brought to you, right? It's like you're being shown through this unseen mentor what it is that you have to do, because I feel like it's not even like you need to be going anywhere or doing anything. It feels like very much that you're receiving each piece of information as you need it. Like if you're trying to build something, it's like it gets delivered to you. Each part that you need gets delivered to you as you need it, is what this is feeling to me like. Because you're in like this vibration of receiving is kind of how I'm seeing this lamb. And the next two cards here you have are the 10 of Pentacles and the 9 of Cups, right? Which to me, it's like, it's not at all saying to me, like, I'm not seeing any sort of like you taking action on this group 1, which is not normally a stance that I would take. I feel like it's talking about like you just have to sit back and receive is what I'm seeing for this. Like each component that you need to build your staircase is going to be delivered to you on your doorstep is what I'm seeing this as, right? It's just like waiting for the package each day or waiting for new information, but it feels like it arrives exactly when you need it because of this unseen mentor here that's like giving you exactly what you need when you need it. And I'm seeing this sort of like, so it could be something like this where it's like there may have been perhaps some sort of like with the Son of Wands, this could be somebody like somebody from your past or from your family or friend group or whatever, a past teacher, let's just call this Son of Wands, where it's like they perhaps had some sort of energy here of like causing more confusion about what it is you're supposed to be doing is kind of how it's coming through. Like somebody whose advice perhaps or like mentorship or guidance actually caused more burden and confusion. Like it made you more lost is kind of how I'm seeing this, right? It's like perhaps you were on a path forward. It's kind of like when they shine their light, it causes more confusion. It's like their flashlight is not working properly is what I'm seeing with this. But it's kind of like when you detach from whoever this energy is, it's like things become more clear and also move forward very quickly because I'm seeing this as like you're moving from the 9 of Wands into the 9 of Cups, which is kind of like it perhaps felt like an upward struggle or because the 9 of Wands does talk about resilience, right? And building and persevering. But it also talks about the wounded warrior, which could be sort of expecting the worst or perhaps being defensive, but it doesn't have to be. It's just kind of like really independent. I feel like that's shifting though, where it's like moving from this sort of like I must persevere, this kind of like fighting forward warrior type of like I'm gonna go after my goals kind of energy into something that's more peaceful and satisfying is what this is feeling like, where it's like the building process is satisfying and easy and it's just kind of like receiving packages that you open, and inside the package is like the next thing that you need in order to build. It just feels like a shift from something that was perhaps burdensome and difficult into something that's much more peaceful and easy and satisfying, right? It brings a lot of fulfillment, is kind of how this is feeling, because there's been a shift in this energy, right? Just identifying some sort of chain of events, perhaps, that was affecting you, or like a certain individual or mentor or person, perhaps, that you were listening to that maybe you shouldn't have been listening to, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be an individual. It could just be like an ideology or philosophy that you were perhaps was shaping how you address certain problems, but it's now being revealed that was causing more confusion for you, is what I'm seeing here. Or just like more burden. It doesn't necessarily have to be confusion, but it's more burden with the 10 of Wands. So anyways, group 1, I'm going to leave the reading there. If this message resonated with you, please like, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. It helps so much. Thanks for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. Hi, group 2. Welcome to your reading. So let's get started here with the bottom of the deck. You have here the Pilgrim, which talks about a journey of some sort, which of course is the overall theme of this pick a card reading. You have the Vision here and the King, which is really interesting because it's looking to me like whatever this journey is that you're going on here at the Pilgrim, it is talking about you becoming a king, right? From the Pilgrim, who is sort of like this energy of the wanderer, of like searching for something, and then becoming a king from this journey. I'm getting very strongly as well the novel The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I haven't read that book in a long time, but I just did a quick Google search about the main summary and the theme of that book, and it was talking to me about like pursuing your personal legend, which is talking about like being on the path of your fullest potential is how I'm seeing this this story today for you, group 2, where it's like I feel like you're going on some sort of journey in order to pursue your own individual personal legend. There's a lot of energy here about like obstacles. So the bottom of the deck here, you have the 10 of Swords and the Fish card. So the 10 of Swords is very clearly some sort of obstacle, some sort of ending, perhaps of a situation. And because of the cards that are coming out here, so the first tarot card you have out is the Elephant, which talks about obstacles, right? So first of all, obstacles are being cleared in order for you to move towards what it is you're supposed to be moving towards. At the same time, this energy can also create obstacles for you in order to steer you in the right direction. Because I feel like here with the fish energy, this card talks about like feeling lost to the current, not sure where you're going, perhaps just kind of going with the flow. And it's kind of like there are perhaps areas in your life where there are obstacles coming in to prevent you from moving in that direction because it's not the direction that you should be going is what this card is coming through with. So it really emphasizes this energy of trusting the process, because the cards that I'm seeing here for you, you have here the Wealth and the Camel card, which says persevere and you will overcome problems. So you're on this path to wealth, group 2. Something that is part of your personal legend, right? It's going to become something that becomes like a really like integral part of your story, who you are, of like something that's going to become like how you reached a particular goal or how you overcame some sort of problem. Here with with these two cards, the Elephant, and the first card here we have is the Poet, which I love so much. This card talks to me about like expression of how you feel, right? Like this energy of like, and again, it comes in with the Alchemist too, because I think that's it's a very poetic story, metaphor, right? That's very important here as well. But the other two cards that you have are the Ocean and Agape, where it's kind of like, I feel like wherever it is that you're going next, whatever it is that you're being led to pursue, in this case, here with the Poet, it's something that is deeply personal to you, but at the same time also has this potential to serve others. Because even though it's something where it's like, something that struck me from the summary of The Alchemist that I was reading was, all individuals should be motivated to pursue their own personal legends, right? So it's kind of talking about, like, with these cards as well, that when you pursue your own creative goals or your own spirituality or things that are right for your individual soul, even if that takes you away from other things in your life, other things that are important to you, in the end, it always has some sort of purpose in order to serve the greater collective, is what I'm seeing here with the Ocean and the Agape, because this card talks about, like, taking yourself out of the center and shifting the center to like the collective, to nature, to oneness, to unity, especially with the Ocean as well, right? Like this sort of vast consciousness kind of energy. So there's something here about, like, yes, there are individual goals that every person is led to pursue, but in the grand scheme of things, in the bigger picture, each one of those individual goals or individual pursuits end up serving the greater collective in some way or another. I feel like that's sort of the journey that you're going on, is that you're pursuing some sort of independent or individual pursuit or personal legend, if you want to call it that, in order to serve some sort of role or contribution to a greater collective. That's sort of the energy that it's coming through with. The next card you have here that's coming out under the Camel is this Hummingbird energy, which talks about a wellspring of joy and creativity, right? I'm getting a lot of this sort of like light in the darkness kind of energy, especially with this Elephant, right? The flame. There's something here about like shining your light out into the greater collective or into a certain environment, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be so vast and grand all the time. It could be very small. It could be a very small expression, or like as long as it's genuine, right? Here with the Hummingbird. It also talks to me about, like, you will know where to find nourishment, where to find the next thing on your path. Like, you will know where it is to go, because when you trust in this sort of energy with the Elephant, it's like the path is shown to you. And it's kind of like, don't resist if there's sort of like where there's an obstacle, either that you weren't meant to go in that direction, or the obstacle will be cleared by the time you need to move forward in that direction, is how I'm seeing this. This is also kind of coming through with this energy of, like, especially with the Camel, is that you have everything that you need within you in order to move towards this, right? It's like you carry all the water, all the joy, all the nectar within you. And if there is something that you need that you don't have within your within yourself, it's like it will be shown to you, right? The next thing will be revealed to you as you need it. Then there's this interesting energy here of the apple and the wedge, which says temptation will test you, and someone is trying to come between you and something that you want. With the temptation, which is talking to me about, like, as you go out on this journey, there's going to be energies that you will encounter that will test you in some way. It's coming through again because of the hummingbird with the nectar. It's coming through with something as like it perhaps has the appearance of something that you need, right? Like, so it could be something like the energy of it is very sweet, for example. There's it's kind of coming through as like it tastes sweet or it feels sweet in some way, but it is perhaps some sort of energy of a temptation because whatever that thing is will interfere with your goal is kind of how it's coming through here. There's some sort of temptation about like either testing your strength or your trust in the universe, right? And so the cards to come through with that, there was the 3 of Swords and the 7 of Cups. So this 7 of Cups I always interpret as being sort of like an energy of it causes confusion or it introduces doubt. It feels very much like doubt or feeling like insecure about the path or just feeling like, what if this is not the right thing for me is kind of how it's coming through here. Like, it just feels like fear and insecurity perhaps that may be reflected back to you, right? So if you have any fears or pains or doubts about this, those will be presented to you along this path as temptations of like either pulling on your fear, pulling on pain, pulling on insecurities that you may have, maybe, that will cause doubt, right? That will try and... I don't necessarily feel that it's a person, though of course it can be reflected through relationships. So those are just energies that are preventing you from moving forward on your path is kind of how it's coming through. I wanted to get clarification on this 3 of Swords though, and it was coming through as the 5 of Wands. So this card talks to me about distorted reflections, right? So well, I don't know if it's I feel like it's every person that we encounter reflects something back to us in some way. But not all of those reflections are true reflections or reflect exactly the thing that we're looking for is kind of how I'm seeing this, because this comes through as like broken reflections or like distorted reflections. Like if you just imagine like a broken mirror, right? Where it's like the cracks cause the reflection to become distorted, meaning that I feel like there are energies where when you're moving forward in this place, there are energies that perhaps reflect a part of you, but are not true and complete reflections of who you are. They're just reflecting back perhaps fear or pain or doubt or insecurities that you may have, but that are trying to show you something about yourself that is either not true or is coming from this place, right? A 3 of Swords, 7 of Cups, where it's like, it's not true, but it feels true perhaps because it's an area of insecurity or fear or whatever it is. But it causes perhaps like an internal conflict that you may have that would try and keep you or hold you back from your destined path. That's what's coming through here. So just be conscious of that. It's wanting to spend a bit of energy or a bit of time on this combination of cards, just because it's like trust yourself to be able to find the true sources of nourishment in whatever it is that you're moving forward in, because there are going to be reflections of energies, of aspects of you that are not true, or that are just a tiny reflection of the full depth, is kind of how it's feeling. So not to get caught up in that as well. This Three of Swords also talks to me about like messy entanglements. So just be conscious of that energy, and not to be pulled in too deeply into the currents of this sort of emotional pull, is kind of how that's feeling to me. So after that, though, it's kind of like that's sort of the main challenge, is like being able to recognize when there's an energy of fear or doubt that's pulling on you. And then after that, you have the rainbow and the star, right? The most difficult part of a situation is over, and guaranteed success. So it's like, as long as you can resist falling into the temptation of this sort of fear, pain, insecurity kind of energy, then it's like, that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part. The hardest part is just recognizing when somebody, or perhaps you, are projecting fear onto others, or whatever this is, right? That's the hardest part. And once you get over that sort of hump, it's the guaranteed success, right? And the cards that are coming out under this are Justice, Death, and the Crow, which is really incredible. This Justice card, of course, came out under the rainbow, which is so appropriate. But this card was talking to me about truth and authenticity, especially with the poet as well. It's talking about truth, right? So it's like expression of your truth, whatever that is for you. I feel like whatever this path is for you is coming through an expression of your truth, because there was also this sort of line in that summary which was talking about like those who don't pursue, or who put off pursuing their personal legends, end up feeling regret over it, right? So it's kind of like that's sort of what this energy is. It's like when you have a desire to move towards something, but there's fear, or like, I want to say that this is more just like not believing that you're capable of doing something, or like putting it off for another time, or delaying your own progress forward. That's when sort of this regret and heartache perhaps even comes in, because this is feeling to me like regret or pain, or anyways, doesn't matter. I feel like that like there's just one big sort of challenge of like recognizing the internal and external reflections that may be around you. Anyways, I'm gonna move on from that. This energy is talking about expressing your truth, whatever that is for you, and just trusting that this is part of the process. It's also coming through like with a balance of light and shadow as well, especially with the poet, because that talks to me about like going into the depths of who you are, and integrating it in a way that's very beautiful. And then here you have the Death and the Crow, which I feel like is talking about this Death card, which is kind of coming through as sort of like, again, this like shadow and light kind of aspect. But this Death card talks to me about like healing heartbreak as well, like putting an end to heartbreak, or suffering, or sadness, or whatever this is. And it's feeling like a complete rebirth here with the Crow. Because it talks to me about like, the Crow represents to me like intelligence and wisdom and discernment and curiosity and creativity as well, right? It's like, it's very the crow is extremely resourceful in terms of here as well with like your spiritual gifts, perhaps being resourceful with your spiritual gifts or whatever gifts that you have. It doesn't have to be spiritual, but that's all, it's all related, right? It's all part of any gift that you have, being resourceful with it, using it to the highest potential that it has, right? And I feel like, so there is this sort of like rebirth energy happening for you in whatever this is. It feels like in order to, like, the main part of this, the main focus of this reading is like you're moving forward into something that is part of your personal legend. But the main obstacle to overcome is this sort of like recognizing perhaps like projections of fear and insecurity, whether that's happening onto you or if you're doing that to other people as well, and integrating some sort of truth about yourself and your gifts and accepting them in order to reach some sort of success. Because the more that you pursue your own individual personal legend, the greater impact it has on the collective as a whole. So group 2, I'm going to leave it there. If this reading resonated with you, please like, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. It helps so much. Thank you for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. Hi group 3, welcome to your reading. It's a really interesting one as usual for group 3. I keep hearing the return for this one. The return of something here with these two cards starting off. We have the Eternal Child and the Self. So this is looking to me like a return to self, perhaps, or like a more integrated version of yourself. So because the overall theme is talking about like this origin story, it could be going all the way back into your childhood, right? Like, and retrieving something about like your inner child that is now going to be reaching a fuller expansion, is how I'm seeing it, because I was really drawn to sort of these colorful rays here. But in this card, it's like they're kind of like they've been stopped, or there's been some sort of oppressive energy is kind of how I'm seeing this, that prevented that light from shining, is what I'm seeing for this. And then with the Self card, it's like those rays are now expanding, right? There's no limit, is how I'm seeing this combination of cards. So there's a return to self here that's happening for you, group 3, where it's allowing some aspect of perhaps like your past that didn't have an opportunity to flourish is now going to be able to flourish, is how I'm seeing this. And of course, at the bottom of the deck for this combination of cards, you have the fault line and the shadow, right? The shadow, so it's important to remember here that the shadow is formed whenever there's any sort of pain that happens, right? So pain or trauma causes this sort of splitting energy within yourself, and the shadow becomes this energy of like protection. So it is something that is formed in order to protect oneself from harm, right? That's what this Eternal Child shadow energy is coming through with. But over time, if that shadow aspect is not healed, it becomes an energy of like where we act out of pain, or we act out of fear, or we act out from this place of the shadow. And it's like there's this sort of the fault line. There's like that aspect is being broken down in some way. It's like the shadow's being integrated, right, through this sort of inner child work, and it's returning you to yourself, is kind of how this is feeling, like a return to before the shadow was formed through integrating it. You have here as well the grasshopper, which says situations in the balance that require careful handling. So that's, of course, this energy here of like there are things that are being rebalanced. I feel like through shadow work, through the eternal child. And sorry, I'm just looking at all the cards at the bottom of the deck. We have Kairos and Thanatos, which are talking about like divine timing, and the Thanatos card talks about like the death rebirth process, and then there's the dead end underneath that. Okay, so very intense reading for group 3. The club came out, which says someone will try to make you do something against your will. But again, I feel like this is more of like a past energy. That's sort of the energy here of like whatever was keeping this sort of light from shining, right? So there was somebody or some energy from your past that was trying to keep you contained or trying to make you do something against your will, right? But what's interesting here is that the first 2 cards you have out are the Hat, which says you'll be playing a different role, and the Ladder, which says climbing towards success. So whatever it is, it's like you're switching roles, or you're. It doesn't feel like switching roles necessarily. It feels like reclaiming an aspect of your inner child or part of your identity, perhaps with the self, that perhaps you never had a chance to explore or didn't have a chance to flourish because somebody was trying to make you do something else, is kind of how this is feeling, right? So it could be something like the return of a childhood dream that you had, or the return of something from your past that is very significant here. It's really interesting because the next 2 cards to come out are the 2 of Cups and the Lovers, which is so interesting to me because these are very similar energies here, right? So it could be something like maybe there's a significant relationship here with the 2 of Cups from your past, right? That perhaps did not get a chance to flourish because some other thing, right? And this Lovers card I always talk about as being like a return to something, a return home, having a direction, a purpose. But the difference between these 2 energies, so it could be something like a relationship from the past, or it doesn't have to be that, but the 2 of Cups usually talks about that. So it could be like maybe somebody that you've become separated from, but it's like there's a return from that. So it could be something like a soulmate of some sort, like a past life soulmate, but it doesn't have to be. Feels like maybe there was some sort of separation, but there's a return because you were doing shadow work. Okay, anyways, this Lovers card is really emphasizing to me like choice, right? The and perhaps even why it is you choose things, like the motivation behind what you choose. Because the next cards that are coming out here, so you have here the Boot, which says increase your efforts if you want to achieve your goals. And then you have the 7 of Swords and the Devil card, which is so interesting to me. So this 7 of Swords talks to me about like a hidden motivation, is kind of how that's feeling. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it's like there was perhaps some sort of hidden motivation behind what it is that you were pursuing or something like that, or perhaps a choice that you made that I feel like is going to be cleared or revealed in some way. There's some sort of like new, like a, perhaps an epiphany or like some sort of truth that's coming in that will reveal something about this devil energy. Okay, so this card was reminding me of this story, especially with the Boot here, of or reminding me of this episode of The Office. If you're familiar with that show, there's an episode of The Office where Michael, the boss, takes the whole office to like this retreat in order to pick his next replacement, right? And so he puts them through trials, and then there's one trial where there's like a coal pit, right? There's coals, and he says the person who is going to be my replacement has to walk through this coal pit. And so, of course, Dwight, who is his number 2 and, like, obviously wants the job, goes into the coal pit. But Michael doesn't want to choose Dwight because, for many reasons. But there's this scene where it's like Dwight refuses to leave the coal pit until Michael chooses him. So that's sort of like this energy of, like, someone will try to make you do something against your will. Well, it's kind of like there's kind of coming through this energy of, like, choice versus obligation is kind of how this is feeling. Like, Dwight's motivation was to get the job, right? So he would do anything to, even walking through coals for, like, a ridiculous amount of time in order to be chosen for a job. But then also there's Pam, right? Pam, who, when nobody is watching, walks through the coal pit on her own, right? Just to sort of prove to herself that she can do it. And also it's because that's coming through with the self energy, where it's like she has to prove it to herself here with the self energy. It was also a return to self, because throughout that, anyways, there's so much going on here where it's like, I feel like there's this aspect here for you, group 3, of, like, choosing something or pursuing something or making a choice to move towards something because it's a return to who you are, right? Like, of like who you want to be, perhaps, or who you've always wanted to be, or something like that. Because at the end of that coal pit, for Pam, at least, where she walks through the coal pit, it's like it gives her enough motivation, right, to tell Jim, the person that she loves, like, what it is that she's feeling and what's on her mind, right? Like, there's that kind of contrast here of, like, Dwight, who does it for a job, versus Pam, who does it for herself, but then gives her the motivation to express herself or whatever. And there's this line in that speech that she gives to Jim where it's like, he had left for a time, went to a different job, and then came back. And she says to him, like, you came back, but it feels like not all of you came back, right? Like, with the self here. Perhaps there was an aspect here where you were missing an aspect of yourself because perhaps you went through some sort of trial or difficulty, but it's kind of like you're perhaps going through some sort of coal pit, metaphorically here, where it's like something that you have to prove to yourself that you can do, some sort of challenge that you have to prove to yourself that you can do, and that gives you the motivation to choose something or return to self or return to an energy of home, is how I'm getting this. With the Son of Swords coming out after that, it's talking about, like, being motivated by truth to act and to move forward. And it's really interesting here because you have this, the sunrise, the new creative ideas, new ventures, and a fresh start. There is a fresh start that you are moving towards. I feel like there's kind of like this energy here of, like, what's the motivation behind it, right? Like, so how I'm seeing this is that there's something here that there's some sort of truth about yourself is kind of how I'm seeing this. Some sort of truth about yourself that you have to reclaim. It is going to be some sort of challenge where you have to walk through a pit of fire, metaphorically, in order to gather the motivation to move forward with that truth, right? To take that sword and move forward with it. In order to get to the new creative ideas, the new venture, the fresh start, But there's all of this energy here, which is really interesting about, like, I feel like this is part of the shadow work as well, where it's like you have here the moon and the hyena. This hyena card talks about using humor as a defense mechanism, which is like The Office is exactly that, right? It's like, perhaps there's some, or like, no, that's what it is. It's using humor as a defense mechanism. And with the moon, right, there's some sort of like hidden desire is kind of how it's coming through. Some sort of hidden desire. I feel like there's something here about, because you have the next cards, the Chariot and the Son of Pentacles, which is mirroring this moon energy, right? Because the moon energy is not a bad thing. It's not a negative energy. It's an energy about, like, if we go back to that example with Pam, where it's like her hidden emotions, because that could be what it is. There's some sort of like hidden emotional energy that is needing to be expressed in some way, but the hyena is sort of like not expressing that emotional energy in a way that's very direct, is how I want to put this, where it's like hiding it through humor or through like not being serious about whatever this situation is. Or there's something here about like being honest with yourself, perhaps, or just honesty in general, especially if it has to do with some sort of like connection that you're returning to. There's a lot of energy here about expressing your emotions in an honest way that is very authentic to you. So it could be something where it's like, maybe there was a situation from your childhood or something like that that prevented you from feeling safe in expressing emotions or expressing some aspect of what you need or what you desire. Hear about that, but it's like, I feel like here with the Son of Pentacles coming out with the Chariot is like moving forward with sort of the moon energy as being conscious of how your emotions are moving you forward, right? And I feel like the shadow aspect and the fault line energy here is really important, because it talks about like making sure that you're not acting from a shadow aspect, right? Because that's when, if you act from a place of pain and fear and insecurity, that ends up perpetuating those cycles and actually making the shadow stronger. So I feel like it's talking about like when you sort of the more you heal, right? The more you heal, the more that you, with the Strength card at the bottom of the deck, integrate these aspects of self and to connect with this sort of like eternal child energy, right? This sort of joy and like choosing things that you love and choosing to do things that are right for yourself. It allows you to move forward in a way that's like integrated, right? And whole. But the thing is, don't judge yourself for the shadow energy, right? Because remember, shadow energy is caused from pain as a method of self-protection. So this hyena energy as well, it's like recognizing when it is that you are perhaps leaning on, I don't want to use the word defense mechanism because that sounds so judgy, but it's like, when you default into behaving or acting in ways that protect yourself rather than being sort of this open, honest, and vulnerable energy. That's how I'm seeing this Chariot, right? because this is also Cancer, which is talking about like emotions. The moon energy as well is so significant here. There's a lot of feminine energy present. It's like doing something because you feel that it is right is kind of how it's coming through, which ends up healing, having a healing effect on yourself and on others is kind of how it's feeling. When you act from a place of like honesty and authenticity and being honest with yourself as well as with others, it allows for all this movement forward. So it's not at all to say to like be, because whenever the shadow comes out and this sort of hyena and the moon, right? It's like something should be, there are some things that should be kept to yourself. I strongly believe that. Like, not everything that you think and feel should be shared with the whole world. But I feel like there's something about, like, as long as you are acknowledging that, as long as you know what those quote unquote hidden truths are, that's when you can act from a place of authenticity, because it's like, you know the truth, right? You are acting from a place of truth and authenticity that allows you to move forward. Not in this energy, right? Just to close it off, like, don't be a Dwight, be a Pam. Okay. Group 3, I'm gonna end it there. If this reading resonated with you, please like, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. It helps so much. Thank you for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.